It's a new thing. We've not seen a father and daughter team before. So this is kind of cool. Um, they teamed up to build a family bank, and we're about to show you exactly how they built a sizable tax-free income for them both for the rest of their lives.
Had a meeting with a client, 60 years old, and in truth, he's not. The play here is purely, I'll call it, about after he runs out of retirement dollars, or after it's really more of a legacy play here than it is anything else. Meaning, he's got decent cash flow, 60 years old. He's already ready for retirement, but he's not there yet. His window, I'll call it, his time horizon is right around 15 years, so 60 to 75. He already has a pension with Ford Motor Company coming, and in addition to that, he has his traditional retirement accounts, 401k, with the company as well. He's going to be fine with Social Security, so income isn't really an issue. He called because he had been watching us, and his objective was, hey, how can I supplement? How can I add to the retirement that I'm going to get? And I'm not greedy. I'm not looking for something, silly. I don't need $300,000 a year in income. Just something modest to be able to put my cash flow away and be able to achieve a decent retirement income, while also putting a legacy together for, if I'm no longer here. Meaning, is there a life insurance component to this? So obviously we're talking about a secure compound interest account is where we started. So, and just some of the details around this gentleman is he ultimately has about $1,500 in cash flow right now, meaning after all bills are paid, this is what's left over. And usually when clients talk to me about their cash flow, I ask, what are you doing with it today? Where's that $1,500? In this case, where's that $1,500 going right now? And that $1,500 was going to, having a good time, sitting in savings. He had a high yield savings account, so it's really not doing anything, I'll call it, that's building for his future. But it wasn't also being eaten up by emergencies, or he was able to quantify this 1,500 and identify where it's going pretty easily. His current house, his mortgage payment on his current home is about $1,200 a month. And the cool part about this was, and I've run into a lot of clients around his age who are in a similar boat, meaning the conditioning. We've been conditioned to focus on paying off our home and trying to have that home paid off by the time we retire. Well, he fits in this bucket. The home is worth about 425. He owes about 57, which ultimately means he's got about $368,000 in equity. So, got $1,500 in cash flow, got $368,000 in equity, and he gave us a call. Oh, and so as it relates to that high yield savings account, meaning if he does nothing else but pay off his home in the normal time, how many years would it take for that $1,200 to pay off the remaining balance of his mortgage? And it would take about 4 years, about four years and a few months ultimately. And then that $1,500 that, again, he's been doing a pretty good job of accounting for, and it is growing at a slow rate, again, high yield savings account or whatever the case may be. But if he continues down the path in that same period of time that it would take for him to pay off his home for 4+ years, he would have accrued about $78,000 in cash. Like, nothing wrong with any of that. But what we had kind of discussed was his view on all of this was pretty linear. Got my job, and at some point, I'm going to have Social Security. I'm going to pay off my home. Once I pay off my home, and now that I'm debt free, I can now focus on putting my money in another vehicle that can help, hopefully, allow me to either build retirement income or at least supplement the retirement income that I have. Like, we've all been conditioned that way. So it's not unusual that this was the view when we initially started talking. Again, very linear. He gave me a call, and again, I love these visuals that you put together, because I think this is a lot of people. They watched us online, and they came up with this. Whoa, wait a minute, that resonates with me. Hey, is there a way for me to be able to use my cash flow to be able to start my secure compound interest account? Like, is that possible? Is there a way to take this $1,500 a month and put it to work? Again, my time horizon is 15 years. I'm 60 years old. I don't expect to need any of this until for another 15 years. So if I take this $1,500 a month and put it away, could that work for me? And the short answer to that question is absolutely. And we can throw it into the calculator to see what it would look like. But here's the moral of the story: at $1,500 a month, over a 15-year period inside of a secure compound interest account, he would end up with somewhere around $37,260 a year, in addition to all of the other vehicles that he has, his pension, his Social Security, his 401k, all of those other things. So, in addition to that, there would be another 37,000 as in income on an annual basis, which there's nothing wrong with that. But then he mentioned on the call, but wait a minute, I've also got this house that, again, I've been conditioned to pay it off, but in watching your videos, what I've learned is, why would I ever pay my home off? Like, what is the value in me paying off my home? And so when he stopped to think about that, he went, I've got well over $330,000 of equity inside my home. Would there be a possibility to leverage some of that equity, dump it into a secure compound interest account, and jumpstart the growth inside of this vehicle to help me a little bit better? Because he wasn't very pleased about the $37,000 a year in income. His goal was somewhere around 5,000 a month. So he said, if I could achieve 5,000 a month in additional income, 60 grand a year, I'd be happy. So in looking at that, okay, so if we were to leverage the home, what would that look like? And so what we're talking about here is, we've got this home that has about $368,000 in equity. I just simply grabbed this number. There's really no rhyme or reason why I said, have you thought about, or what if we pay off the home with a second position HELOC? So not a first position, but a second position HELOC, and we pay off the home, and then the difference, the remainder, we get into a secure compound interest account. Meaning, uh, take a second position HELOC of about 110,000, take 57,000 of it and pay off the home, and then the remaining 50 we dump into a secure compound interest account. What would that look like? And again, so if we were to do that, what just happens to the mortgage payment of $1,200 a month? Well, if we pay off the mortgage using the second position HELOC, the mortgage payment has now increased its cash flow to 1,200, but we still have to pay off this $100,000 HELOC. So the thought process was, take the $1,200 that you were putting into your mortgage, take that same $1,200 and now pay off this $110,000 line of credit, but then dump the $50,000 into a secure compound interest account. So, okay, if we were to do that, what does it look like? Again, his objective was, he said he would be happy if he had somewhere around $60,000 a year in income. We're getting pretty dang close. Dumping $50,000 in, and actually, this is assuming 25,000 year one, 25,000 year two, right? Because in a secure compound interest account, the lump sum is split in half. But what if we take that 50,000 all in year one? We would absolutely exceed this number. But taking into consideration 25 year one, 25 year two, on top of that, the $1,500 a month, we're talking about, in 15 years, 55,000 tax free for the rest of your life, added to everything else that he has. And again, so as we're talking, he has another revelation. And again, this isn't things that I didn't like introduce him to this. It was, wait a minute. Why would I only take 110,000 in equity if I have 368 or whatever that number is? He goes, I've got this daughter of mine, and she's been conditioned just like me, and she just recently transitioned her 30-year mortgage to a 15-year mortgage, because based off her conditioning, she's been educated to pay off her home as quickly as possible. Similar to what he's done, right? He only has $57,000 left. So the question was, hey, would there be an opportunity to leverage this equity in my home to maybe create some more of a, I'll call it, family bank structure? Because he referenced the video that we did with the mother and daughter, who, we were able to get the mother the income she needed and help the daughter retire earlier than 59 and a half by just working together and building a secure compound interest account. So his position was, hey, would it be possible to leverage more of the equity in my home to maybe structure this thing like more of a family bank? Well, in order to do that, obviously I got to peel more layers back, because is it possible? Yeah. But I need to understand more details as it relates to his family. So that's where we started talking about his daughter. And here's the truth. If we're talking about compound cycles, meaning the amount of time it takes for your money to double, his daughter obviously has far more compound cycles than him. And this isn't saying that he won't live past 70. It's just, it's a fact. Given his age, he has fewer compound cycles than his daughter. So the fact that he's wanting to put in a lump sum of $50,000 and be aggressive is great. And notice over a 15-year period, that $55,000 in tax free income is awesome. But if he would have just take those exact same numbers and put them on his daughter, would this look different? Well, it would look a whole lot different because she has more time. There's a lower cost of insurance for her. So therefore, the amount of time, oh, I'm sorry, the amount of income being able to generate off of her insurability would be awesome. And again, in digging into more of the details around his daughter's name is Kim. She's married to a gentleman by the name of Greg. And again, as I mentioned, they have recently converted their 30-year mortgage into a 15-year mortgage, and they did this before the spike in interest rates. So they actually have 3.75% is the interest rate that they currently have on that 15-year mortgage, which is pretty awesome. So they converted the 30-year mortgage over to a 15-year. The payment went up, but that means that they're going to pay off their home faster. So they're comfortably putting away $25,000 a month into this mortgage. And so his question was, hey, it's a $275,000 mortgage amount, meaning the total due on the mortgage, and they're paying 2,500. Is there a way to maybe assist his daughter in paying down or paying off this mortgage while also trying to achieve his goal? And as Angelica mentioned, this is one that I haven't really thought through. I haven't run across this before, so I had to give it some thought, or give it some time to kind of just make sure I understood what was happening here. So again, moral of the story: got a daughter, 35, who has a 15-year mortgage, paying $2,500 a month. And when I say comfortably, they this is what they wanted to do. So they aren't paying this $2,500 and it's some dollar amount that they can't afford. They are comfortably paying this $2,500 a month on this $275,000 mortgage. What if? And just looking at simple math. So if this was I think the home was worth 425. So the so dad's original home is worth 425,000. 80% of that 425 is 340K. Meaning, if he was to get a second position HELOC for 80% LTV, which is very reasonable, and based off my understanding of his credit history, meaning he's got $1,500 in cash flow, he has decent income, and all of these other vehicles accessible to him, excuse me, and all of the equity that he has in his home, the ability for him to qualify for 80% LTV second position HELOC on his home is not a stretch. Now, we are in the process of going through these steps. So he hasn't been qualified as of yet, but I haven't seen anything that would prevent him from being qualified. So my point is, if he was to get an 80% LTV second position HELOC on his primary residence, what would that do? That would add about 340 that would add a $340,000 line of credit. Well, if he added a $340,000 line of credit, the 50 he could pay off his home at 57,000 and pay off his daughter's home at 275,000, all with that one line of credit. Oh, and still have $8,000 left over. But my point is, if he were to do this, and again, banks love the fact that you're not hitting their limit. So to go to the bank and say, nah, instead of an 80% LTV, how about we do 77? Yeah. Anyway, bottom line is the likelihood of him getting approved is pretty high. And so if he was to then take that second position HELOC and pay off the primary residence and pay off his daughter's 15-year mortgage, what would that do? Well, there's a few things here, right? And I think actually, before I even go into that, I think one thing I wanted to highlight was looking at the daughter's current situation. So let me come back here for a minute. This 15-year mortgage. So I just want to highlight the impact of this $25,000, $2,500 a month that Kim is currently paying on this 15-year mortgage. So the details that I had around the mortgage was this. So she's $275,000 mortgage. The interest rate is about 3.75% for 15 years. I had to kind of doctor some of these numbers to achieve the $2,500 a month payment, but I think I got there. So what I assessed was, okay, How long would it take then? Well, not how long would it take? How much interest would be paid or paid back to the bank if she spent 15 years paying off this home? Well, we're talking total interest, total mortgage payment about 359,000, total out of pocket 438,000 on a home worth 275. So she does nothing different. Again, they are comfortably paying this $2,500 a month. She continues comfortably paying this $2,500 a month mortgage. And actually, this is showing it would be less, but bottom line is it's somewhere around 440,000 or more is what she would end up paying on this home that's 270 that has a $275,000 mortgage. So would it make more sense to for dad to leverage his equity to be able to pay off this home and put his daughter in a better position? And again, this is that family bank discussion. This is instead of thinking singularly like we all think, meaning this is my household and this is what I'm focused on. He had the kind of the wherewithal to say, you know what, with the equity that I have, is there an opportunity to assist my daughter? And so, what I want, the reason I'm sharing this is if nothing occurred, if they continue down the path that they're on, his daughter would be just fine. She would have just only spent about 438,000 on a mortgage that's only 275. How many of us are currently doing that, right? And so, as I mentioned, so if he was to absorb that $275,000 mortgage and pay off his primary residence, we're talking about 332,000 again, which is a realistic dollar amount to receive. And if that were to happen, what happens overall to them both? Well, for him, if he pays off his home, he's going to free up that mortgage payment of $1,200. He already has $1,500 of cash flow that we stepped into this with that. So in total, he's now freed up $2,700 a month in cash flow. Now, it is true there's a $332,000 first position HELOC that needs to be paid off. So he's not free and clear. He just added debt to his situation. But what did he do for his daughter? Well, for his daughter, he just freed up $2,500 a month. Between these two dollar amounts, what can happen to address this? And this was my thought. And I think there are many different ways to 10. We've got this $332,000 first position HELOC that needs to be addressed, but there's $2,700 in cash flow that's been freed up. And in addition, because the primary home has been paid off for Kim and Greg, there's $2,500 of cash flow available. So this was my thought. And again, this is my thought. This is I'll call it my example. This is my opinion. This is no one else's opinion. There are many different ways to get to 10. There are many different ways to accomplish this goal. I would love to hear from you guys. What are some of the different things that could be done here? But this was my first thought. What if we take this $2,500 that Greg and Kim are already comfortable paying, and we take this $2,500 and we simply pay back this HELOC? Meaning, however you want to do it, whether it's transferring 2,500 to dad and then dad paying, I don't, how it's done is not my concern here. My thought process is because they're already comfortable doing it and they were already prepared to pay this 15-year mortgage. So for 15 years, they already have a set standard as to what it is they're doing. So you take those 15 years and you dump 15 years of $2,500 back into this HELOC. So the payback of the HELOC is their responsibility. Well, simple math, simple conventional math. If you do $2,500 a month, 25 times 12 times 15 years, if you do that math would not pay off this HELOC. And that's okay. So I want to pause there. I'll address that. But my point is this: the $2,500 that they were already paying is now going to transition from the mortgage, meaning it's not benefiting them, to now transitioning to pay off this HELOC. Well, as we know, as you put money into a HELOC, the balance comes down. And as that balance in the HELOC comes down, what can you do with the difference between the balance and the limit? Well, you can access it. You can do things with it. You can borrow against it. You can pay bills. You can dump it into a secure compound interest account. There's a lot that you can do with that room. But in addition, Greg and Kim has this home that's now been paid off. What can you do with a home that is free and clear? How can they leverage the equity in their own home to do other things? We're not going to address that, but I just want to plant the seed. Meaning there are so many opportunities here because Cal decided to support his daughter and create a machine that would benefit everyone. And so what does this look like? Well, from a family bank perspective, what we're talking about is the equity in the home plus the growth in a secure compound interest account on Kim, or even a secure compound interest account on Kale, either one. But the room inside of this vehicle plus the cash value generated inside this vehicle now becomes a family bank that allows us to address issues as they come about. If someone needed a roof to be fixed or purchase a vehicle or pay a bill, instead of borrowing from a bank, instead of using a credit card, you have this vehicle that, because some simple decisions were just made differently. Notice, no one's making more money. There's no, I'll call it influx of cash due to some inheritance happening. These are the money was going to a place initially. All we did was redirect that money and put it somewhere else.
I can feel what some people are probably feeling at this point right now. The second that you said her house is paid off, like their house is paid off, he's got this HELOC
Debt.
now, this first position HELOC.
Yeah.
He almost had this sucker paid off. And now he's way back up, like it's brand new mortgage on it, but maybe even a higher interest rate at this point.
Right.
Who would do that? And then on top of that, what if they don't pay?
Right.
What if they get a divorce?
What if his
What if
daughter loses his job? Like there's all sorts of what ifs running around here, right?
what if she's like decides, you know what? I'm out. Like I don't want to pay your thing anymore. I'm going to use now I have all access to all this cash. What if she's selfish? What if she goes on some sort of raid? What if, and you and I were talking about this before, and this is why I wanted to bring this up. You know, our sidebar conversations while we're getting ready was about, today in particular was about the emotional processing around an arrangement like this.
Right.
And
Right.
that's the part that I want to bring up, because when you were like, and then she gives her money here and his money goes here, right? Yeah. If that made you gasp, if you got a little sweat on your brow, if you really were like, when he said that, then I would say you're not wrong to feel that way. But I think seeing in the beginning that she was on a $275,000 mortgage that she's paying 420 something, 440 something around there, that if that amount of money, that the interest that was being paid to the bank, if his granddaughter could finance her home through the family bank, and let's just say she paid the same amount, whatever the
Right.
going interest rate was, and that extra $200,000 was going into the family bank, folks, this is the what's up. This is how wealth is created. This is how wealth is secured. These concepts and these ideas have to start seeding and breeding this the desire to strengthen relationships, the desire to stay together so that we can build and grow and have a secure future. It doesn't benefit any of us for the family dynamic to be torn apart. And that's really what this is showing, is the power of broken family systems. And I
But
think there's a lot of, this is an onion, so I'm not going to start peeling it off, but that is the conversation you and I were having, and that's why I want to bring it up.
absolutely, because of what it forces me to do is I got to hold the mirror up. If my brother had just jumped into a 15-year mortgage and I was close to paying off our primary residence, would I go, "Hey, little brother, let me assist you in this process"? Am I confident that my little brother would knock this out? Mm. But how do we get to the ultimate goal? How do we get beyond this conditioning? How do we step outside of the box and be able to hit our goals in a more I'll call it efficient fashion? If we don't test these waters, it takes trust. It takes a whole lot of trust for the people involved to be able to accomplish a goal like this.
Yeah, Veronica makes a good point. She says that's what contracts are for. And I think
I agree. That's
these
what
are
trusts are
entering,
for.
but when you've got a trust that is your great 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 granddaddy, who you probably don't even know his name, He established this, and as a result, every member of your family had a policy that was placed upon them when they were born, and they already have rules about how, like, what access they have or how they can use the family bank. Man, that is a movie I want to see played out in my family.
And the thing is, that just means that this process is not linear. It is not one size fits all. It is not I finish my dinner before I have dessert. It is a lot of moving parts, and it's identifying where the opportunities are within this process to be able to support one another. Where are the win-wins? And can we take advantage of the win-wins through this process? And again, knowing that it's going to take commitment. And the piece that I appreciate is she was already committed when she signed that contract with the bank on that $2,500 a month on that 15-year mortgage. She was already committed. So she's all in. All we're doing is redirecting that 2,500 to here. So instead of it going to the bank and her paying double the interest in that fashion, if this is done right, this second position HELOC on her dad's primary residence would actually be paid off faster. The interest would be lower, and it's a vehicle that you can get money into and out of. And notice I keep saying 15-year. I think another thing we're going to get in the comments is, wait a minute, this is a home equity line of credit. It's paying $2,500 a month on a home equity line of credit for 15 years. Isn't the draw only 10 years? And here's the thing. This 15-year time horizon doesn't mean the draw period on the 80% LTV second position home equity line of credit is 15 years. The 15 years is based off the time horizon of dad. The draw on the HELOC, there's actually many different draws on HELOCs. You can get a 3-year draw, 5-year draw, 10-year draw, 12-year draw, 15-year draw, 20-year draw. There's even a 35-year draw that I ran across. And the purpose of this visual is just saying this process is not linear. It's not the same for everyone. And it takes some planning to be able to address, but if done properly, everyone can win here. And so, in kind of looking at these details, again, the objective was this $2,500 that they're already committed to paying towards the 15-year mortgage. What we're going to do is take this $2,500 over the next 15 years and pay it towards this HELOC. And then over the same 15-year period, his increased cash flow, and if you remember, that increased cash flow looked like this. It was 1,500 that he was in cash flow is what he had, and then there's 1,200 that he was paying in mortgage payment. So that added together gives you the $2,700 that he now has available to be able to put towards another vehicle. So we're going to take this over this same 15-year period, take this $2,700 and get it compounding. Now, again, there's a lot that we are not addressing. There's a lot that we're not talking about. There's a lot that both of these individuals have access to that we are saying nothing about. Meaning, specifically for this group, they have a home that's paid off. What's happening during this period with that home that has a zero balance on it? Like, what are they doing with the fact that, hey, they have, other than taxes and insurance, what are they doing with this equity that they have in this home? Wouldn't it be an opportunity to maybe start a secure compound interest account on Greg? And we didn't talk about grandchildren, but wouldn't it be an opportunity to maybe start a compound interest account on the grandchildren? Meaning there's so many layers here that we're not addressing. So I don't want to lose sight of that. I know that they are there, but as I mentioned earlier, I think there's multiple ways to 10. And so we're just focusing on the first part. There's a choice here that Cal has. Because again, the original call was, hey, I'm 60 years old. I've got a time horizon of 15 years. I want to put my cash flow towards a secure compound interest account for me to be able to supplement my income. So now he has increased supplemental income of $2,700. He has a choice. He can put that secure compound interest account on himself, or he can put that secure compound interest account on his daughter. And we've already identified the fact that his daughter has way more compound cycles. But what would it look like on him if he was to do that? What would it look like on Kim if he was to do that? And again, he has an option. 60 years old, putting away $2,700 a month. What would this look like? And again, his objective was $60,000 a year, $5,000 a month. So If we were to do this on Cal, that would be about $67,000 tax free in income. He would have a cash value about 777,000. And as it relates to legacy, he would be purchasing about $486,000 in life insurance. And if something were to happen to him around that age 75 or greater, he would be leaving to his beneficiaries about 1.8 million. Like, again, this is right in his wheelhouse. This is exactly what he asked for. He wanted about $60,000 a year in income. He got 67. In addition, he has liquidity of about 777,000. Now, I want to remind everyone of something. If Kim puts away $25,000 a month towards the HELOC, then the HELOC will not be paid off. So let's address that as well. So this is on Cal, $60,000. I'll get to Kim, but I want to first highlight what is that $2,500 a month doing inside of the HELOC. Yeah. So for this, the balance, I guess I can make it bigger for can I make this bigger? I can't. So the balance on the home equity line of credit, again, started with 332,000. The interest rate on that second position HELOC is 7.38%. So let's talk about it. She had a 15-year mortgage at 3.75. I don't know what his interest rate was on his home, but I think we can all agree that if the home was, if he only owed $57,000 on a home worth 425, he's been paying on that home for a long time. So the odds of him having a pretty low interest rate is pretty high. So they're giving up those low interest rates for a $332,000 second position HELOC at 7.38%. And these are not their actual expenses and income. I just needed the difference to be 2,500. Why 2,500? Because 2,500 is what Kim and Greg are paying towards this HELOC. So as long as the difference is 2,500, it didn't matter in this calculator how I got there. So if the income is 5,000 and the expenses are 2,500, then that means the difference, meaning the cash flow going towards paying off the second position HELOC, is $2,500. So okay, how long would it take? Well, this says it would take about 282 months. Well, if you do some math on how many years is 282 months, it's well more than 15 years. I want to say it's like 23 or something like that. I did the math earlier. I can't remember what it is right now. But let's view some of the details though. So if let's slide down. I think it's 180. Get there. There we go. Okay. So if Kim was to apply $2,500 a month towards towards the second position HELOC for the next 15 years, 15 years over, 15 years equates to 180 months. So what that means is at the 180 month mark right here, what would be the balance due on this HELOC? And this is covering it up. So I'll bring it down a bit. Just a minute. Yeah, go there. So at 180 months, the balance on that second position HELOC would be about 186,000. Let's call it 187. So again, even after 15 years, the second position HELOC is not paid off. Am I upset about that? Let's get into why I'm not upset about that. And for that, I have to go back to the calculator. If we were to do a secure compound interest account on Cal, this $67,000 in income would be available. But we owe $187,000 on the second position HELOC, right? So if we owe $187,000, how do we pay it off? Well, can I not pay off that $187,000 right out of my cash value if I wanted to? Or if it's a 15-year draw period or a 20-year draw period, whatever the draw period might be, maybe dad decides to use his income to pay off the HELOC, meaning the HELOC will still get paid off. It's just a question of when and where or how you do it. But the cash value is available to do so is my point. But that's if we do this on Cal. What if we do the exact same, take the exact same dollar amount and put it on Kim? So she's 35. We're going to allow it to compound for the same 15 years, which means she'd be 50 at that point. So the same $2,700 on Kim, what does that look like? So we go from 67,000 in income up to 109,000 tax-free for the rest of her life. So again, 187,000 is what's owed on the second position HELOC. We could take 109,000 of it right now and knock that balance down to 87 and then next year pay it off with just the cash flow flowing from this instrument. If she had been paying off that 25 or 15-year mortgage with that $2,500 and now at 15 years being free and clear, how much what kind of vehicle would have been generated to be able to produce income at the end of that 15-year point? How about none? And in addition, if we want to take that $187,000 and pay off that second position HELOC, how about we take that $187,000 right here? What did dad say? What did dad say he needed? He wanted 60 grand a year, $5,000 a month, which means give dad his $60,000. Dad, take your 60,000. Where's this remaining 49 going to go? Whose is that? You're telling me Kim and Greg couldn't use this $49,000? And again, don't forget, this is a life insurance policy. So, God forbid something happens to Kim. You talk about legacy based off these actions that dad has taken, based off the fact that he decided to redirect where his money was going and engage his daughter and his son in law in a better approach. Just because, and all they're doing is redirecting the same dollars. Again, we're not reinventing anything. There's no magical lump sum coming from anywhere. We're just redirecting the same dollars into a different location. Talk about legacy. He's now placed his daughter in a position to be able to provide $5.6 million into that family bank. God forbid something happened to her.
Thanks, Dad.
So, what is this family bank like? What is the contents of this family bank at this point? And again, we're talking about at the 15-year period. At the 15-year period, what's happened? Well, dad has done a secure compound interest account on daughter. And the contents of that secure compound interest account is about $950,000 in tax-free income, or $950,000 in liquid cash ready and available to be used. It's also created about 109,000 in income per year if it's warranted, if it's necessary. In addition, Cal has about $500,000 in equity still available. And just so we're clear, I put $500,000 plus because I acknowledge the fact that there's about $187,000 that has to be paid off. The home was originally worth 425 15 years ago. So what's the odds if the home was worth 425 15 years ago and the home was paid off 15 years ago? What are the odds of there being at least $500 or more of equity in that home 15 years later and being able to pay off the 187,000 that's owed? I think it's pretty high. So I'm being very modest. My point is I'm being very modest in the $500,000 of equity. And in addition, Kim and Greg's home has been paid off for 15 years as well. Their original balance on their mortgage was 275. Let me make up a number and say the home was worth 300. I don't know. Again, I don't know these details. But is it safe to say that that home that had a mortgage on it of 275 15 years ago is at least double 15 years later? So isn't it safe to say that there's at least $500,000 of equity or more inside that home as well? Again, had they continued down the path they were going, there still would have been a home paid off. And there still would have been a secure compound interest account built, creating about 33, if not $60,000 a year in income. And dad would have still paid off his home as well, meaning we would have still accomplished same goals had we not redirected or restructured where this money was going. But do you see the power of just by simply taking a different approach? Cal said, you know what? I know I can solve this problem on my own, but I would like to look at this holistically and figure out how I can solve my family's challenges. I
Yeah.
want to be able to leverage the equity in my home to be able to put my daughter in a better position, create a family bank, start my secure compound interest account, put my family in a position to where they don't have to worry about money at any point. You're telling me this isn't generational wealth?
He's cracked the code. If we could have more conversations and normalize this concept of the family bank, can you imagine how many families would be thriving? Thriving. Now you do have to qualify for a SKIA. So that is one part of this.
You got to qualify for a HELOC. Like
Yeah,
none
you
of this
do.
is coming to
Right.
you.
Right.
Like there are some hoops that you have to jump through. There are some qualifications that have to be met. But I think a better question is: are any of these hurdles that you have to jump over too high for you to jump? And the answer is no.
Yeah.
If
That's
all you have
true.
to do is be healthy to be able to put your family in a position to have generational wealth, why isn't that goal number one?
Right.